Okay, thank you, Swee Meng, for joining us today. Swee Meng Ang, so Mr. Ang is a serial entrepreneur and he is living and working in Brunei. And I have known Swee Meng personally since 2016, so that's 5 years already, since we worked together in Laksamana College. I as a computing lecturer and then Swee Meng as a business lecturer. And not only is he running many, many businesses full time, he's also selflessly teaching our students at the college. So he has many, many jobs. So he started and run multiple businesses, and he's interviewed countless number of students as well for all sorts of roles across all sorts of industries. So he's someone we can really learn a lot from in terms of interview skills and what interviewers are looking for in terms of skills and capabilities. And he's here to dispel some of the mysteries behind impressing interviewers and acing all of those job interviews. So thank you so much for joining us, Swee Meng.
Thank you.
Please could you tell us about the companies that you have done hiring for in the past?
Where do I start? I started off as being my own entrepreneur. So as an entrepreneur, I've gone through many businesses. So I hire people ranging from needing IT skills to shipbuilding skills and in terms of admin skills. So various sectors. So I've been into the IT business, in the advertising, Cineplex business, so on and so forth. So I managed to get all these people through normal recruiting processes, hiring processes that we go through our interviewing, and we'll put the skill sets or what we need from them, and let's find out, and we interview them. And Bruneians are hard to find. Good Bruneians are hard to find. So it takes a lot of process, a lot of hard work, and we do find our gems once in a while.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear that you finally find someone for the job. So what is it specifically that you are looking for in potential candidates?
Um, it depends on the role, honestly. For example, if you're looking for a software developer, again, it's a very technical aspect of the person that we are interested in. First and foremost, we'll need that person to have a software developer skill sets. Whereas if you're looking for, let's say, HR staff or admin staff, so you probably don't need as much technicality. Then you will need to look at what in general, what else does this person know. So it all depends on what you're looking for. For example, for me, if I'm looking for accountant, first and foremost, I'll need that person to be highly skilled in their job, and being able to show the right character, right, and attitude. So characters and attitudes are usually what I'm looking for to start off with. Skill sets, I make assumptions, quick assumptions that the school or the colleges or the universities should have taught them their basic so-called technical knowledges.
Yeah. And that stuff you can actually learn on the job as well. I mean, you need your fundamentals, but you can teach on the job as well.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. So you need the basic fundamentals first, right? So the universities or the colleges are going to teach them the basic fundamentals of, let's say, accounting. Then after that, on the technical aspects in the office, because it might be slightly different from what is being taught theoretically. So those can be learned in the office or in the companies. Attitudes and characters are something that is very, very hard to teach. So those comes from within, and normally what for me myself, what I like to do is look for people's so-called willingness to learn, attitude, the characters. So in that respect, CVs, we look into something that can show that the willingness to learn and having the right attitude. So that's part and parcel of the interview.
Okay, so you mentioned CVs. So describe some really good CVs that you have seen. So things that go, wow, okay, I want to interview this person straight away.
Um, Nothing really strikes out more than your CV fits my job description, right?
Okay.
So if your CV really fits the job description that we put out, there's
Yep.
something that we would love to interview this person, right?
Okay.
So that's something that we look for, that somebody that really can fit in terms of what we want. So other than that, because if we recruit newbies, so-called fresh grads, so we like to look for something that they are doing out of so-called education, the academic side. So what again, looking for that character, right? So what other things are you doing to show to me that you are a self-learner, you're motivated, what kind of interest do you have? So those are what attracts me, because I don't have much to go into except to look into this so-called extracurricular skills that they've acquired. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's not just the formal education that's important, it's the other soft skills and extra skills and kind of activities that you do outside of learning as well that are
Oh,
very
and to show that you are learning, you're more than happy to learn, and you are motivated to learn. Especially for fresh grads, right? For
mm,
these fresh grads that they come out and they don't have the ability, or they're not being given the opportunity to show their so-called formal skill sets, right? Because they've not had a job yet, or they haven't had a job experience yet. So they need to be able to shine in different ways.
yes. Okay, so in terms of CVs, what things look bad? What things have you seen that look really bad in a
I've
CV?
always been uh, upset, or at people not knowing how to use Microsoft Word properly. That there are these typos that turns up here and there.
What?
Yeah,
You
and
can't have any
this
typos in your CV, guys. That's really
absolutely.
bad.
I mean, it should be none, right? It should be
Yeah,
none.
yeah.
It should be
That's
zero.
the bare minimum to not
Yeah,
have
it should be
typos.
bare minimum. And we haven't even spoken about how to shine and all that, right? So
Mm,
first thing first is that there shouldn't be any typo, right? And
yes.
once you have a typo, and
In the
that's it.
bin. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, I say this to a lot of people: if you cannot even get that correct, how
Hmm.
do I expect you to get things correct when you join me?
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Totally.
it's so that is important. So typo is something that I so-called naturally looks up for.
Hmm.
The other thing is, sometimes people get carried away, and they try to squeeze too many things into one page. Um,
No white space, isn't it?
yeah.
Let
Uh,
your eyes rest in between. It's not just like one big block of text. It's too much.
because the very so-called in thing about guidelines right now is because everyone says that HR only spends like 6 seconds or 10 seconds looking at your CV.
Mm,
So everyone says that, okay, let's do a one-page CV.
mm,
And I think the idea is that the HR will scan through 6 seconds, and if nothing stands out, they will not continue. If something stands out, then the HR will actually spend time re-looking at the CV and spend a bit more time, right?
yeah.
So what is important is not trying to squeeze everything into one page, and then after that, so it's very, very hard for someone like me to look into it. And the other thing is trying to be very, very colorful. Actually, yeah, unless you're applying for graphic design or multimedia and all that, I don't think you need to show to the HR or anybody, right? Recruiter, your so-called skills in terms of graphic design or colorful skills, right? Kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh my
So black
gosh.
and white will be fine.
Okay. If like a tiny bit of color is fine to highlight, your name, your contact details, but if it's all like unicorn, multicolor, rainbow,
That
that's
becomes a bit off. Like I said, unless you're applying for a
yeah.
graphic design job. But even with that, you're supposed to provide a portfolio, right? So you
Even
don't.
then, you have to look professional, right? You don't
Absolutely,
have,
absolutely.
business communications that are all like unicorn colors.
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen people using colored papers, and trying. Uh, Again, I think the concept of trying to grab attention.
As in they print it on like yellow paper or something.
Yes, yes, yes. Colored papers. Right, right. Yeah. So I've seen all that. Sometimes it's hard to just it's sad just to throw all these things into the bin.
Oh,
So yeah, so you force
spent so
yourself to go
long.
through it because we try to give opportunities to people. But if it is a bit too much, then it's done, right?
Mm. Well,
Applicants have to understand
yeah,
that in Brunei right now, it's hard to find a job, and because of that, everyone is fighting for a job, and everyone is applying for many positions. I've had experience before where I've got one simple a warehouse executive position. I have 150 applicants
for one job.
for one job, 150 applicants, and
And
we
you, as the CEO, have to look through all
no
150.
HR will look through it. But for me, because I'm very fearful of, especially on more important positions, not a warehouse executive, but more important positions. I will say that I want to see everything,
Yeah.
because I don't want somebody else to filter for me, right? So
Um,
warehouse executive is less important of a role in an organization. So because of that, then the HR will do the filtering, and if 150, and we are all human beings, and we're not going to go through 150 interviews, right? And we're not going to go through 150, so we're probably going to be interviewing like 15 out of that, right? So we're only going to pick 10%, and that means 10%, and we need to be looking at these 10%, right? And if you are being having all these errors and all that kind of stuff, then you're not going to be in the 10%. You're going to be so-called filtered off very quickly.
yeah. Okay, so people have impressed you with your CV, say, and they got to the interview stage. So, what has really impressed you during interviews?
I don't have very high standards, so I'm impressed if you can deliver what they put out in the CV.
Okay, so it's just to confirm their CV, is
Yeah,
it?
yeah. And you show to me, I mean, and you have that again character and that attitude. That will I'll be happy with that. That I'm looking for example, that your willingness to learn, and you're open for criticisms, discussions, that kind of stuff. So yeah, then it matches that. So I always tell people this. For example, engineer comes to me for interview, and I will always try to make their life comfortable and ask them to explain to me, tell me about your final year project, right? And that very quickly, I hope to be able to get some idea of your skill sets, right?
Yeah.
If it is your final year project, theoretically you should be able to at least talk to me for 10 minutes without me interrupting, and you tell me all the details technically as well, right? As an engineer, not as a layman kind of thing. Just tell me all that. And if you can do that, I'm genuinely going to be very happy already.
That's setting the bar really low, to be honest. You're a really nice interviewer.
No, it's not because again, we just want to be able to confirm the technical know-how, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So then after that, we will ask about what have you done in life, in that respect, right? So if you are don't do anything, and then you have not shown to me that you have this learning capacity or learning capability by yourself, right? And we know that in the work environment, there's no lecturer uh, forcing you or pushing you. Hey, you need to get this thing done. You need to get that thing done. Whereas in the real work environment, it's pass it over to you, do it, and at the end of the day, a timeline will be given, and then that's it, right? And then when the timeline comes along and we see what you've done, right? It's like what we do with assignments, right? We give you a assignment to do and you timeline, and with experience we'll be able to see, right? Is this a last minute assignment, or you spend time doing a bit of research and all that, and that so-called comes from the character, right? So if the person has the character saying that I need to do this, and they need to be able to self-motivate. So hopefully we can gauge that during the interview itself.
Yeah, proactive. Okay. Can you tell us about any interviews that went really badly so that we can learn from their mistakes?
I've got interviews coming in late.
That's really bad. I hate that.
I've got
Gotta be
interviews
punctual. That's the bare minimum.
again. Yeah, I've got interviews coming in, and first question is, do you know what you're applying for? And they said no.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's
I've got
really bad.
interviews coming in, um, wearing t-shirts.
Yeah, that's not good. Dress for the interview, bare minimum shirt, tie, at least put
Time
a bit of
maybe
effort.
optional, but for guys, definitely a shirt, long sleeve shirt will be good. Obviously for ladies, the traditional baju kurongs in Brunei will be great. That kind of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I've got loads coming in t-shirts. I've even had people coming in shorts.
Shorts and like flip-flops or something, going to the
Going
beach.
to the beach. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So though these are no-nos, and they come and they are literally, I mean, t-shirts or polo shirts, depending on the position, sometimes you can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
But already the first impression is bad, right? So
Yeah, you do want to give a good first impression. I mean, put a little bit of effort into it. I mean, it's
yeah,
quite
yeah,
important. Like you are asking the interviewer for a job, right? Like
exactly, exactly.
feel
Uh,
like you should be prepared. And then I've heard some interviews where people bring their parents.
uh,
Don't do that, guys.
oh,
What?
well, I've had that, but I've just told the parents that please stay outside. You can wait outside. I'm fine. But you're not allowed to come in for the uh, interview. We're not interviewing you, kind of thing. So again, these interviews will go by very quickly because the impression is already wrong, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
um, we're just being polite. To be honest, we're just being polite and asking you to come into the room. But otherwise, in actual fact, we wouldn't bother, right? We're just being polite and just say come in.
yeah,
But otherwise, there's no point, right? I mean, if you are allowed to get through like this and you join the organization,
yeah.
how is the organization going to manage you, right?
You have to think about the interviewer's time as well. You are the CEO. You have a lot of work to do. Your time is very precious, and all these people are just wasting your time. Like, think about it from the other person's point of view as well. Like,
Yeah,
don't waste other people's time.
absolutely,
Right? Like,
absolutely.
your time may be worth nothing, but this person's time is worth hundreds of thousands of pounds an hour. Can you
Yeah,
actually
and, and,
pay?
and it's not only that. I mean, we spent before our interview, right? It's not that the CV puts in front of me and
Yeah,
I
like all the
immediately
CV.
do interview. I have to prep myself. I need to go through their CVs as well,
Yeah.
and look at them and understand them and all that before we even do an interview, right? We don't just put a CV in front of Mr. Ang and then off he goes, right? The CVs are all put to me a few days before the interviews, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking back at the job roles that you filled, what skills do you think are lacking in the talent pool right now in Brunei? Like what are the job roles that were the most difficult to find people for?
Um, technical job roles are because technical roles you need specialists, and you know it's obviously it's a lot easier to find generalists compared to specialists. So technical roles are the one that are really hard to find. For example, software programmers, software developers, because IT goes at such a fast pace. This self-learning, it becomes more and more important, because what you learn in school, and you go out to the industry, IT might have changed already by then, and there's a lot of self-learning that needs to be done. So technical skills are, be it engineers, be it software developers, um, these are hard to find. While I was in the shrimp industry, technical skills like QA, QC, these people are hard to find. For example, now I'm in the agriculture business. The technical people of horticulturists or agriculturists, these are technical people that are very hard to find, and definitely they're lacking in Brunei.
Oh, okay, so if they're lacking in Brunei, there's no choice but to go look overseas, isn't it? Like you gotta go outside if there's no one here.
Yeah. And here, therein lies the problem. Is the issue is that it's okay. We don't mind hiring a foreign talent, but we want to be able to groom somebody up, right? A local.
Yeah.
So again, that local, whether they can close this gap, right? Whether they can close the gap of saying that, okay, we are willing to learn, and I put you into this position, and you learn from the foreign talent. So again, this character comes into play, right?
Yeah. So actually, employers in Brunei are actually looking for local people, just they don't have the talent pool in Brunei right now. But employers like yourself are willing to train up locals as long as those locals are willing to learn, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think, the misconception of so-called companies prefer to hire foreigners. It's not because that we prefer to hire foreigners. It is because sometimes most of the time, we don't have these options of local talents available.
Yeah.
Um, and we need to give them the opportunity, but again, if the locals are not willing to learn or don't want to step into that role or responsibility, then it becomes a very hard thing, right? And obviously we will have all these perpetual so-called arguments, being that if you pay locals the same amount as a foreigner, then the locals will work and will work as hard. But if they think about it, foreigners aren't paid very highly, especially at a lower level either. It is just that the hard part of recruiting locals.
That's really interesting. So it seems like the most important thing for Brunei locals is the willingness to learn, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, this has been,
Especially fresh grads, right? Fresh grads,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
there shouldn't be any question about that, right? Because whatever you learn in uni, or in colleges, is only part of the whole process, in when you go into the real world, or the business world, right?
Hmm. So they do say what you learn in university is pretty much outdated by the time you graduate, especially for something like a technical role. So what university teaches you is the ability to be able to learn new things. So,
Yes.
and also the technical fundamental skills, but
Yes.
you learn that on the job as well.
Yes. You
So,
getting the fundamental skills, right?
yeah,
That's important, right?
yeah, okay. What are your views on the current job market in Brunei right now?
Um, Hard,
Mm,
extremely hard.
mm,
I mean, you will hear of people around the world anyway. People talk about the great resignation that's happening. Um, but I in Brunei it's slightly different. We in Brunei we're a bit different. Our business environment right now in Brunei is not as conducive, or because of the pandemic that's happened. So 2022 is going to be a very challenging time for Brunei as an economy, or as these private businesses, where if the economy is not growing, why would companies want to recruit people, right? Your revenue has dropped. Your with that, you wouldn't be incurring more costs in hiring people, right? So industries, obviously, certain industries will be okay. Certain industries will have a hard time to climb back up. For example, the hospitality industry,
Yeah.
they've been having a very hard time for the past 18 months or more.
Yeah.
So to climb back up, yes, they will need to recruit people, but most businesses will be very so-called wary of how many people they hire, and because you don't know whether a third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave is going to come or not, right? Whether lockdowns are going to happen, and so on and so forth. So companies will be very wary of what's their next step. So because of that, I think everyone will be cautious about how to move forward, and that is why with that the job market is going to be very hard. I believe anyway. 2022. Yeah, I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, in the next few years, moving forward, especially.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, unfortunately, that might be the case as well. Again, depending on how the economy comes along, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, if the economy is so-called picking up pace, and we see significant growth, then certain industries will ride this wave, and being able to go forward, and obviously employment will pick up, right? But overall, it's where everyone is wait and see how this thing goes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this has been really insightful. I've definitely learned a lot from you. Um, do you have any final tips for our job seekers out there?
Um, my final tip will probably be, do your CV well. Uh,
No
not
typos.
typos. And present yourself well, and show. I mean, we go through this in classes as well, in terms of the students needs to be able to present well, the graduates need to be able to present well, and being able to shine when they go through that door, right, or that interview door. um, and I think that's the best that they can do, right? And after that, it goes back to the employer whether to find out whether this person is a good fit or not. But it is the responsibility of the so-called future employee to shine, and they have to find ways and means to shine, and if they have any good things to show or to highlight to the interviewer, they should do it.
That's a really good tip.
Thank you.
Okay, so the willingness to learn and how you show that to the interviewer is really, really important.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Swee Meng. It's been really insightful, and people who are not lucky enough to have you as a lecturer can actually learn from you now, and that's really good, because we should share the knowledge, and especially in this really bad job climate, you should really stand out to have the opportunity to get a job. Okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Lynn. All right. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.